My name is Jen Vance. I'm the principal at Extreme Elementary in DeWitt. Extreme is a preschool through third grade building. We have right around 450 students. We were a C4K phase 1 school, so we are in the second year of using FAST as our universal screener. We are heavily invested in the MTSS system and are very proud of our progress through that system. We are very data driven, and I'll talk about that in later questions here. We run a 6-day cycle, and within that 6-day cycle, teachers are required to have 2 team meetings. So 2 out of the 6 days they meet, with one of those days being focused on data solely. That's the only thing they talk about. And then the other focus of the other meeting is it's ABCD, and that stands for attendance, behavior, curriculum. And then if there is another small component of data that can come in, and they rotate where they start on that ABCD format, so they're sure to get to everything. So the 2 collaborative meetings that they have within that cycle are very focused.
Sure. In what way is your school incorporating a standards-based system?
Right now, we collaborate really well with our AEA. And when we talk about the standards, that we have had teachers that were part of the RCD, the rigorous curriculum design work, through our AEA. And we had a grade level teacher from our building. One teacher from every grade level was represented on that committee that designed the scope and sequence to meet the core standards. So we were lucky to have building grade level experts that help develop that scope and sequence, and then so it's been very helpful when we get back to do the instruction piece. Every team has an expert from the actual writing of that scope and sequence. So when we talk about that, the materials and conversations that we've had since this work started, a lot of it has come from the building blocks too, as being part of the C4K work. And so when we talk about standards-based, our teachers, to hear them talk, people ask what curriculum we're using, and our curriculum is the core. And then when we talk about what other people might refer to as curriculum, in our world, so Go Math is a resource we use to achieve the Iowa core. Right now we're in the state of discussion with our ELA as far as what resources we need to meet the standards. So the discussion, our teachers have a very good understanding. When we went through materials adoption for math last year, we had a committee that vetted the materials, and to hear our teachers be able to say, this resource here is missing this standard, or it's not aligning, these are the gaps, but oh, we could use this to supplement that. And now we're doing the same thing with the ELA, ELA, looking at those materials. Our teachers are very solid, and they know the standards. And when we talk about, I think that comes later here, but how we look at the data based on the standards and track our kids by standard, as opposed to opening our basal and going page by page through that beginning to end. If it doesn't match a standard, it doesn't happen. So just the conversations go a long way as far as understanding what standards piece is in our building. As far as reporting, we are in the process of, we have 2 grade levels who are on the standard-based report card right now. The 3rd one will be next year. And those conversations have been very interesting, but also it's time consuming to switch over to that way of thinking. But I feel like we are at a point that our instruction and our assessment and grading was not lining up, and our teachers were the ones who said, hey, we got to do something different because we're not reporting what we're actually doing. We're trying to make it fit when it doesn't. So for us, it was a natural progression, and it's been nice because we just worked up the grade level chain in regards to kindergarten was there, 1st grade is there, now second grade is going to be there. So for our parent, it was a natural progression as far as the standards-based grading, and we don't talk about it as it's a big deal, that we're doing standards-based grading. It's just, here's how your child's doing in accordance with the standards that we're teaching to. And so it's been, like I said, a very natural, easy transition for our building.
Okay, thank you. Some of the documents that are part of our module come from the Colorado Coalition for Standards-Based Education, and one of them is conditions that need to exist in a school or district so standards-based education can happen. I know you've looked at that document. What are some of the most important conditions that you feel need to be there?
I think in our building, 2 of the most important, and I think that we're doing a pretty good job with, but that we've spent a lot of time on, are the assessment and evaluation piece, and then the professional growth that goes along to support how you're getting your instruction, your intended, your given instruction, and then your assessment to be aligned. When we talk about assessment and evaluation over the past few years, we've implemented the FAST system of assessments, both on the literacy and the math side. And then we also, our teachers have a great understanding of what a universal screener is and then a diagnostic to be able to go in and understand what standards are they missing. And then knowing what resources, and that's where the PD comes in. Okay, now I know what standard is missing here, what these kids are missing, but now how do I fix it? And what resources do we have and how do I use those? So getting the training and the PD in there to do that. When we look at our professional development in this building, it's all standards and data driven. So when we, I don't have a plan, like looking ahead to next year for the 15-16 school year, I will not sit down before the school year and plan out a year of PD. That's something that's done month by month by our building leadership team. We look at the data. So for example, this year, our FAST assessment and other assessments supported that fluency is an issue in our building. And so a lot of our professional development was focused towards what research-based strategies are going to support helping our kids grow in that area. So that's just one specific example. But then when we talk about the foundational skills of the core, that was something that was missing. 2 years ago in our building, we implemented the 95% group, professional development and training in that. And I feel that we're in a good place with our foundational skills instruction right now, but that could not have happened if we hadn't had the assessment to tell us that there was an issue, and if we had not had the training and the professional development to use the resource. The other thing in regards to the 95% group and then going with standards-based is that just last week I was in a kindergarten and they were looking, they had their orange booklet out, that's our standard book, and they're looking and saying this standard is missing in 95% group, like the long vowel teams is not being addressed, or, you know, so those specific conversations happen now. It's just where our teachers, their framework, their frame of mind. So.
That's great. From the Colorado document, I'm sure there are conditions that you are continuing to work on and maybe a few you've identified to focus on in your school. What would those be?
I would say the curriculum, as far as aligning, you know, we talk about the core as our curriculum, and right now we are right in the thick of a major conversation about our materials to meet our curriculum in the core. And you know, right now teachers are pulling here and there and from wherever they can find the information to meet the standards. And there's a worry about the consistency, the guaranteed and viable curriculum resource. And so I would say that's right now where we're looking to improve, is just making sure that what we're using is research-based, that there's some validity behind it, that, you know, you go on Teachers Pay Teachers and you see all sorts of really cool things, but are those really going to give you what you intended? And so working through that vetting process of using quality materials to deliver the curriculum of the core.
All right, thank you. You've given us a lot of wonderful ideas today and experiences from your own building. Is there any other piece of advice that you would like instructional leaders around the state of Iowa to know about standards-based education?
Well, I think when I talk about things we can improve and things that I as a leader want help with, or think that maybe other people are thinking the same way as myself, is that my leadership needs to continue to change and evolve. And when I'm in and out of classrooms, I have got to be able to provide feedback on the standards. And are you a standards-based classroom? Like, I have a checklist that I got from a workshop I went to at the AEA, looking, you know, these are the certain criteria or things that you'll see as you're walking through a standards-based classroom. And for me, that was something I had not been doing, was pinpointing those specific bulleted points. And I think that's helpful for teachers when it can be black and white, or when I go in to see a foundational skills lesson. This is the checklist I'm taking, and the teachers know exactly what components are there for this lesson. And so I think that's one of the, being somewhat black and white in a really gray world that we work with, letting them know what you're looking for, and but then myself personally, I need to know what I'm looking for. And so trying to stay ahead of that curve and giving yourself the opportunity to get out of the building for a day and go to the AEA or go to a workshop to keep yourself a step ahead if you can, is important, because if we don't know what we're looking for, how do our teachers know what we're looking for?
Exactly, exactly. Well, thank you very much for your wise words today and your time, your expertise. I really appreciate it.